All right, good evening. We are going to review the middle childhood lesson, which has to do with the school age child, and then I will record another one on another little walkthrough on the adolescent. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Share that screen. There we go. And then I will go ahead and go to the view as student. And I will try to make these a little bit quicker. There was a lot of information in the first early childhood lesson because we're talking about toddlers and preschoolers. So let's dig into middle childhood. I'm on the home page and the overview is there. I'm downloading the early childhood walkthrough right now, so that will get posted soon on the early childhood page. I'll go ahead and post it there. And then we'll look at middle childhood here. So middle childhood comprises the ages of about 6 to 12, and we tend to think of those as school age children. They're not in preschool, they might be in kindergarten, up until maybe sixth grade, junior high, somewhere in there. And so in your reading and the lesson, you will be describing different, at least four characteristics common to school age children, some developmental milestones common to school age children, looking at the psychosocial task of the school age child according to Erikson. The cognitive stage will change in the school age child according to Piaget. Looking also at the moral development, which will change a little bit, and also examining three factors that help contribute to health and safety of the school age child. So there are a lot of different things that are happening to the child's mind, their body, their friends, psychosocial, parents, relationships, all those kind of things. And so we want to make sure that we keep them safe and healthy. And so here are the chapters to read. They are similar, so there might be some different information in a couple different ones. So go ahead and look through the one that you think speaks to you the best, that you understand the best. We'll come back to the lesson in a minute. There's no activity or assignment for this particular lesson. For week 6, there is only the early childhood and the adolescent assignment. And then your journaling for this week, as I explained in the earlier video, I'm trying to just in week 6, 7, and 8 cut down on the number of journal entries that you have to complete. So there should just be one per lesson. And this one's kind of a tough one. Not kind of, it is. We're thinking, and we talked about this when I did the walkthrough of the overview. So take your time with that. Do your best with that. And then let's move on to the lesson for middle childhood. Again, our course outcomes, the lesson objectives that we just went over. There's the reading again. There is no assignment. There's your journal entry for the week. And then we move into the lesson. So what I'll do is go through and then we'll come back to the PowerPoint and finish up with that. I originally had another link in the early middle childhood and adolescent, but when I was doing the early childhood lesson earlier, okay, it's okay. When I was doing that lesson, that link didn't work. And when I went to fix it, the site totally changed. It's like a totally different site. And I put it together like 2, 3 weeks ago, and it's all that information is gone. So what I did is take those links out and give you a link to this parenting guide and then also to this webpage, Advocates for Youth, that talks about growth and development in different, it actually splits school age child into 2 age groups. And there's some other great information on the site, especially for the adolescent, talking about puberty, body changes, things that happen there. Let's look at Kohlberg's Morality for the School Age Child. You have a link back to the lesson there. So this is the visual that you'll have on each of these lessons that talk about morality. And so now we're moving into conventional morality. So this is where the child, because the peers are starting to become more and more important, they conventional. That's kind of normal, what everybody's doing, what the reference group is. If peers believe to do it a certain way, then you want to do what your peers want to do. And then stage 4, authority, behavior driven by obeying authority and conforming to social order. So in stage 3, you want approval of your peers. And then in stage 4, you kind of realize that, yes, the peers are really important, but there is an authority. There are rules, there are reasons why we do certain things. And so I need to follow those particular rules, like driving, for example. You stop at a stop sign. That's a rule. You don't just keep going to keep going. And so that's how the morality changes in the school age and eventually the adolescent, because before it was to avoid punishment and then it was to gain reward. So that's how that changes. So we'll go back to the lesson page. All right, and then y'all can read the guide on your own and what parents need to know. You have also here the Bright Futures pre-visit questionnaires, as you've had in the early childhood, and in terms of when you're looking at your screening tools, when you're working on your developmental screening tool assignment, you can look and see what the expectations are. I talked a lot about anticipatory guidance in the early childhood module. The same thing is true for the middle childhood, school age child, as well as the adolescent, to help the parent understand what is coming in development so that they can prepare themselves and the children. It's hard to, in reading some of the quiz answers, one student shared that, one of the things that they found important this week was being able to discuss sexuality with your child. You can't wait till they're 13 or 14 to start talking about that. So if you can, if you yourself are ready, and hopefully then you're able to educate other parents about, just little things that you are going to talk about earlier, and then just keep building on them as the child gets older. You have a couple other videos here. Here's a school age development video. And then talking about vaccines. We talked a lot about that in the early childhood lesson. And what are the pros and cons? Does it help or hurt? We don't want more measles outbreaks, things like that. We want our children to be protected. And so here's the schedule according to the CDC 24 recommended schedule. Understand that the CDC comes out with a new version every year. So you always have to go back and look at the most current version. The other thing that is a good resource is, the CDC vaccine app, which I believe we talked about with the infant lesson. But if you go to the CDC site, you can find the link to the app as well, and they update it constantly. So the most up-to-date information about vaccinations for children and adults, those with health concerns, all right available to you on your phone. And then talking about child abuse, we did go over that a little bit in the early child. I'm thinking now, I have to go back and double check that. How to identify child abuse, make sure, that the resources there. Different things that you might notice that the child is doing, or to teach the parents to look out for. Being sick a lot, having mood swings. Granted, 12-year-olds are going to have mood swings. Girls are getting their periods earlier, some as early as 8 or 9 years old now. And so with that does come mood swings. If they're talking about sexual activities, if they have a secret with somebody, pain in the genital area. And then to see that child abuse includes also physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and gives you sort of definitions and examples. And what to do if you're worried. Talk to the child, see if they'll talk to you. Let them tell their story. Don't interrupt with a lot of questions. Just believe your child and just kind of listen, just be there. Use that therapeutic communication. So now that you understand how to do that, teach the families, the parents, how to do that as well. And help the child to feel safe and that what happened is not their fault. Many of these are the same things for the younger child as well. So I'll go back and make sure I have that. I have one on the 0 to 5-year-old. I want to make sure that that is included in that lesson. And then I believe nutrition was the next thing. You're going to learn about the toddler nutrition, and now this should take us hopefully to, helpful mealtime hints for school-age children. It's a little bit different. They like to kind of choose their own things. They can totally feed themselves. What are some good ideas to get them to eat foods from each of the food groups? Healthy choices, let them help cook or plan the meals, I think is great. So it gives you a lot of good information. This again is from Stanford. And then your Bright Futures, again, you have that resource there, and it will take you through the infant, toddler, preschooler, school age, adolescent, all through that. So signs of drug abuse in a 6 to 12-year-old, who thinks about drug abuse in a 6 to 12-year-old? But it is a possibility. And we are seeing it happen younger and younger. There are 2030 healthy people 2030 leading indicators and social determinants of health that relate to that. And so signs of drug abuse, if we click on the link, it should take us. Oh, it's the whole child. I will go back and fix that link. I'll have to go back and find my other resource for that. I do apologize. But it'll be changes in behavior. Maybe they have more money, maybe they have less money, changes in sleep patterns, the mood swings again. So it kind of overlaps with the signs and symptoms of child abuse. And then let's see, consequences of youth substance abuse. Again, these can also tie into the signs and symptoms that you might see. So academics, they're not, they may have been great students and now they're not doing so well, or they're struggling. Their physical health may deteriorate. Different diseases, sharing needles, HIV, AIDS, mental health. There could be different mental health issues that you might see. Smoking in general can lead to other drugs. Marijuana has been known as a gateway drug to lead to use of other drugs. If there's like sleep, if they don't cognitively seem there, if they're moody, which is hard because teenagers, as you move in to get the teenage, those 12-year-olds can be quite moody. Tell the parents to, not that we're trying to choose friends for our kids, but we kind of are. So, watch who they're hanging out with, what they're talking about, what their peers are doing. And sometimes they'll kind of ask questions. So they're trying to test the relationship with the parent. Like, if I mention this, if this happens, how will my parent react when I say this? So try to help the parents to have some therapeutic communication, be able to listen, like in the child abuse list that we just went over, to believe the child and to listen to them. You could end up with some family crises when you find out the child, or if the parents, if the parents are alcoholics, that has, we talked about dysfunctional families, and so that can play a part in that. But then also when the child is using or drinking alcohol, that can also bring more stress into the family, different social and economic costs to that, drug use, delinquency. So a lot of times the kids just stop going to school. They tell you they're going to school and they just don't go. And so then you get a call from youth authorities saying, oh, your child has not been to school. And you're like, wait, what? So try to learn what resources are available in the local community wherever you are, so that you can help the parents with that and get them some counseling, get the child some counseling, because it can spiral downward very, very quickly. We used to have the DARE program, and I don't know if we still have that anymore. It depends, but they did that program they did it with 5th and 6th graders. At least that's when my kids did it back in Ohio. And parents thought it was very helpful because you were trying to catch the children at an earlier age to let them know the dangers of using drugs. And apparently what some studies found is that the children, it didn't do any good. The use of drugs, the statistics did not decrease, unfortunately. So I know and the funding ran out as well. But hopefully there are other programs that are still in existence to help children work through those. And then there also was, I thought, interesting to talk about suicide. amongst children 5 to 11? Because I don't think, I mean, I know I certainly didn't think about suicide in that young of an age group, but it is a thing. And so it goes back to the stress and the drug abuse. And if there's not good nutrition, and if we don't believe them when they tell us they've been abused or they're struggling with their friends that are using drugs, things like that. And so I thought this was an interesting article that there needs to be better tracking and prevention, right? So I think if we have more open discussions, that might be helpful. Like this particular child, and again, this is back in 2010, but things are different now in 2024. I think more stressful, and regular day. The child was smart, not too emotional, just a good kid. Talked and talked and talked. Same old normal day. And the child says, I love you, Daddy. And then a few hours later, the school calls to say that the child had died by suicide while locked in the nurse's bathroom. The dad says that there were some issues going on in school, but he didn't see them coming. And the father's feeling, shock, disbelief. We're going to talk about grief in week 8. And so that just disappeared. Okay, there we go. That there might have been signs that he missed. And so the guilt of that is really weighs heavily on the parent. Here's a picture of Jason. And so, paying attention to the mental health and suicide ranks, it says, as either 7th or 8th leading cause of death among children ages 5 to 11, according to the CDC, which just, I don't understand. I feel very sad about that. And again, we think about it as problems of teens and adults, but younger and younger children are expressing similar thoughts that might have been ignored before. We often would brush them. Oh, you don't think it's okay. Things will get better. But really to do screenings, get them to a pediatrician or a psychologist, psychiatrist, which there are taboos to that as well. So if we can normalize some of those things, I think that will help. We talk a lot about double empathy when we were talking about autism spectrum disorder in the early childhood lesson. And so when the children are like our media, we also have in the early childhood lesson a TED talk about media and children. And so it's everywhere, like how to kill yourself, how to get a gun, how to do drugs, all those kind of things. So talking to your children about loss and death and feelings, it could have been underreported, they're saying, but it's very recognizable now in this particular age group. So I encourage you to, read through the article, think about ways that we as healthcare professionals can identify it earlier, help parents to identify it earlier. We need to do something because it's very sad. Let's go back up to the growth and development PowerPoint. Hopefully this will open. If not, I'll download it. And this PowerPoint will be very similar to the one that we reviewed in early childhood, going over the different physical characteristics, changes, the Piaget-Erikson stages. Let's give that another little minute there. Not a minute, another couple seconds. Let's go ahead and download. That should download. There we go. Do it that way. All right. So again, these are PowerPoints from much earlier classes, same class that I've been teaching. So I apologize for the week 4 being there. I just didn't update it, and my credentials are a little bit different now. These are pictures of school-age children, the links if you wanted to go look at those. The objectives are somewhat the same. Middle childhood, 6 to 12, school age. The name of the stage changes a little bit. And Again, the growth is slow and steady. So we talked in the previous lesson about early childhood that in infancy, there are many, many growth spurts. But then when you get to toddler and preschooler, and now also in school age child, that the growth is more slow and steady. There aren't as many growth spurts. The next time that we will see some big growth spurts and rapid growth is during adolescence. But the toddler, preschool, school age child, the growth is more slow and steady. The child starts to move from peers to from the circle of the family to circle of peers. Gives you some physical growth and development there. The bones, the muscle development. So you will see these children, we talked about t-ball and soccer, and you'll see the students, the children in more sports, more organized sports, more sports in school, like school teams, as well as community teams. There are growing pains. It used to be a myth, but your muscles and bones are stretching, so there can be pain there. The teeth, you lose all your baby teeth and you gain your secondary teeth, your adult teeth. So braces are very common. They have like Invisalign now. We didn't have that. I had the headgear. I had that whole thing. It was very painful. We always did the tooth fairy in our house, but that's up to you how you want to address that. It just shows you the teeth. Dental hygiene, that's if we don't have good hygiene. Sometimes when we send the nursing students to Clinica de Salud, they have we send them to the one that has the dental services there, and so the students will see really bad teeth, just really quite sad. So reminding the parents to, excuse me, how to help the child brush their teeth. Because even at 6 years old, they might need help. Not necessarily that the parent has to brush the teeth, but maybe you brush together so that you are the role model. Parents really need to, especially now, because the childhood years, once the children get to be teenagers, the parents are no longer an influence really. And so the parent needs to be a good role model during all through the school age, as long as possible, to be a good role model. And so our job is to teach the parent how to do that if they don't know how to be a good role model. And then so these slides go through the different systems. My expectation is not that you know this information or have this information memorized, just that you are aware that there are changes in all of the body systems. And so we just kind of go through the immune system. Hygiene is a thing though. We've got to help the children develop a routine. We talked about consistency for toddlers and preschoolers, and we continue to need routine and consistency for school age children, and giving them chores, assigning them different tasks. And we'll see why in a minute here. Emotions can be all over the place. And so helping the child to figure out how to deal with the emotions that might happen, and to be aware of our own emotions and how we deal with them to help the children. Fears. So fears are very real. Preschoolers, toddlers can also have nightmares. School age children, so many new things going on, things on television, they can have nightmares, but they can also be afraid of things that we might think are silly. And again, there's that therapeutic communication where we want to listen to them, and what is it that is that they're afraid of and why, figure out why, and so that we can help them to understand what's happening and find ways to problem solve and figure out how they can feel better. School, now we're starting school. School is really important. More families, I believe, or I don't know more, but are homeschooling for various reasons. A lot of different online programs for homeschooling. The child's going to run faster, farther, jump. The fine motor skills will continue to improve. Play is still very important. And kids these days are on their phones a lot, or they're doing the role-playing games, the RPG games. And so, which it kind of involves mostly just sitting. I mean, the imagination is great, but there's not much physical activity involved in that. So getting them out and exercising, my kids all did Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, different different groups, I think is good. The 60 minutes again, at least per day. Sleep and rest. Yep, 10 to 12 hours of sleep. Which is helpful. They might enjoy a short nap, but in school that's hard. And then we have a lot of after school activities, or they go to daycare after school because the parent's working. So it's not always possible to get naps in. Breakfast, nutrition, food fads are common. They're out at the mall a lot, so maybe they're getting fast food a lot. So helping them to make good, nutritious choices, food choices, is really important. Obesity is happening earlier and earlier with children. Cardiovascular disease. We're seeing type 2 diabetes more and more common in younger ages. And so trying to really talk about nutrition and what's good nutrition, what's poor nutrition, and trying not to shame the child, but to offer them suggestions, give them choices, teach the parent how to do that, and then hopefully that will help. Keep in mind that children, I always say children grow out before they grow up. They gain a little bit of weight, get a little whiter, and then they get their growth spurt. And so when the children are 11, 12 years old, that's when that kind of happens. I remember when my kids were in 6th grade, their 6th grade teacher would have them at the beginning of the year, the first day of class, would have them all stand up on the wall and do, you know how you do the pencil mark to see how tall they are. So he did that with all the kids. And then they come back the last day of school and compare. And I kid you not, some of those kids grew 6 inches in that 9 months. It's just the growth spurts just, and so nutrition is important, exercise important. And then these slides just kind of go through the different age groups. So again, I don't expect you to have these memorized at all, just to basically understand that even between 6 and 7, 8 and 9, 10, 11-year-olds, there are some differences in things that they are able or not quite able to do yet. Now, they might think that they're able to do these things, but they may or may not be. Peer pressure. Oh my gosh, school-age children and peer pressure just is overwhelming, much overwhelming. And then doing organized sports is starting younger and younger and younger. And the bodies aren't necessarily able to adapt to the stress that's put on the body by the team sports. So let's talk for a minute about cognitive development. So when we talk about Piaget, we were in the pre-operational stage. Now the child is moving into what's called the concrete stage. And by the end, near the end, they should move to the abstract or the formal stage. So concrete, things are they can follow rules, they understand time frames, dimensions, hands-on learning is very important for them. They understand conservation, that if it's an ounce of something, it's an ounce of a liquid, no matter what container you put it in. They understand being able to, collections that they have, or to order things. They can do it by color, by height, by size, different ways. They understand how that works. They understand cause and effect. If I do this, this will happen. If they do that, that will happen. I think sometimes the media, movies, TV changes that perception a little bit. So it's very important for us and the parents to try to be as realistic and give realistic examples. Moral development, we went over that already. They go from the fear of punishment to more societal expectations, and then in adolescence to following the rules. So cognitive styles, their attention span does increase, although I have seen studies now that say that attention spans are decreasing, that we're more of, we want everything right now. We don't want to wait for things. Communication, words are changing, vocabulary, texting. Everything's texting now. They text each other, or they, the children in this age group, or it's on Instagram. Instagram, not so much Twitter X anymore. I don't think, maybe some. Snapchat's another one. And then there's, I don't know, Reddit and all these other ones that I don't even know about, that the kids are using to communicate and text to each other. I'm gonna skip over those couple slides. And so then when we talk about Erikson's stages, we're now in industry versus inferiority. So these kids want to have praise and rewards. They want to know that they've done this, and they're really trying to accomplish things and be part of a larger group and learn things and be smart. And unfortunately, there's a lot of, I don't know why, but there's competition. So, little Susie over there, she gets straight A's, and little Joey over here, he really struggles. And so that can really set the child up for failure and expectations. So the family really needs to understand what's going on with the child, and to, as much as possible, gain satisfaction from their accomplishments. Talk to them about their schoolwork, check their homework every night, or as much as you can. Read to them, write with them, do all kinds of different things. And the 6-year-olds kind of still need immediate gratification. They want to know that they've done a good job. As you get a little bit older, you can wait a little bit for that. But they really want to feel industrious, that they're really they see something, they want to do it, they want to be good at it, and they don't want to feel inferior to their peers, which are their friends usually. They're moving towards their peers, away from the family, and a lot of times they'll have a lot of things in common. Sibling rivalry is kind of a thing. So just to be aware of that. Privacy is a huge thing, right? Especially as you start to enter adolescence. They want to, I'm not sure, be left alone necessarily, but they might have girls often keep a diary. I'm not saying guys don't, but girls often will keep a diary, or some journals, or they're experimenting with makeup, or dressing in different styles, things like that. And so it can be quite modest. And so they want to be respected and not ridiculed. So when a parent makes fun of them for that, that's not a great thing. Trying to have more conversations about what they're experimenting with. I'm not saying drugs, that kind of thing. I'm just saying like hairstyles or clothing, things like that. And privacy, like don't let my little brother into my room. Don't let my little sister read my diary. Those kind of things. We need to be teaching them about money, how to we don't just get money. Money doesn't grow on trees, right? We work hard for our money, and to learn to budget. I think we should bring that back. Home economics should be in school again, so that the children learn all about that, and how to save and have savings accounts. And some families think chores are part of being in the family, so they don't want to give an allowance for chores. But if there's other tasks that the child might be doing above and beyond, then they'll give allowance for that. Other families put the child on a budget. But there should be some kind of, I earn my money and then I can spend my money. It shouldn't, I call it Banco-Mom, mom or dad. So we don't want that. This actually is kind of I think now an older slide. They call them latchkey children, because there used to be a time back in the day, that moms would stay home, dads would work, moms would stay home, or there was a big family. And so aunts or grandma, somebody would be home when the child came home from school. Then there came a time, kind of the 80s, 90s, where the child would come home, but mom and dad were both working and out of the house. So the child would come home to an empty house, and there weren't a lot of after school programs, or daycare, or the families didn't feel like that was needed. And so the child is home alone, which is a safety risk. There should be a backup person there, but there are thankfully a lot more after school programs, daycare programs. I think most schools offer something. I know my granddaughter has been at a couple different schools, and or they're looking at schools, and they all have daycare programs, after school programs. So you want to make sure that the family knows what the schools have to offer. Sexual development, nobody wants to talk about that with their kid, but the body's going to be changing. And so if you if you can help the parents to be able to talk to the children sooner than later, not wait till the for example, the girl as it gets her period, or for boys if they have what are called nocturnal emissions or wet dreams, knowing that all the parts are working, you know, if the child doesn't know those things are coming, then they're going to be very scared. And so it's good to try and talk about those things ahead of time. They do see a lot of that in the movies. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. That was a movie, was a book that I read when I was younger that they now have made into a movie that talks about growing up. And so just, you know, kids are going to be curious, and give them, we talked a little bit about cognitive rehearsal when we talked about therapeutic communication, where if you rehearse a particular situation, then when it actually happens, then you'll be able to hopefully deal with it a little bit better. You'll have something to say already thought out. And so if you have those conversations, if you teach your children how to do that, if you teach the parents to teach your children how to do that, that's really important. You can see where there's these parenting skills, and there's not, I mean, there are manuals now, but who reads a manual? It just doesn't happen. So we get a very short time. I am thinking of a clinic situation, very short time that we have with the parent and the child to make such an impression and be a role model for good behavior and interactions and communication with the child. So sexuality, try to keep up with the terms and the slang. That's so difficult. And our world today is much different even than 10 years ago, where people are questioning their gender. Are they bisexual, asexual, pansexual, transitioning, gender identities, identifying as female, male, all different kinds of things. So it's even, I think, more confusing than it used to be. And so it'll be interesting to me to see in the future how this ends up being taught, how I will end up teaching students about this in the years to come. Right now, I say just be as aware as possible, and be open to what people have to say. I'm learning all the time. And I think that's a good thing for you to do as well. And again, we have to leave our biases at the door when we're caring for people, as well as keeping safety in mind. And then, you know, teaching about when they get their period, you know, you're the example again. Hopefully they feel that they can come talk to you, or hopefully there's another adult that they can talk to. Substance abuse, we talked already about that. Discipline, we go over discipline. We went over that with the toddlers and preschoolers. And in those cases, the parent is doing the majority of the discipline. But now that the child is in school most of the day, all the day, the teachers now are the ones that are providing a lot of discipline. And so they're setting boundaries and limits. And self-control is really a difficult thing. And it's really difficult for a teacher to stand there with 30 children in the classroom and give each child individualized attention. It's just really, really difficult. They like praise. They have that, you know, industry that they want to be doing things. So punishment, I don't know if I'd call it punishment. I think discipline is the better term. You know, and talk about, okay, what happens if, how does so-and-so feel? How would you feel if they said this to you? You know, children with autism, on the autism spectrum, children with ADHD, different learning disabilities, all plays into that. And it's just to be able to recognize those milestones, those developmental milestones, or not reaching those milestones is so important, to teach the family, the parents, about those things. Safety, seatbelts, helmets, you know, being careful with swimming, sports, wearing all the right equipment, stranger danger, still a thing, internet dangers, right? Internet safety, understanding sources and who the kids are talking to, because there's people out there that are just nasty people and target children, and it's just terrible. So try to teach the parents about internet. Have them be curious. Have them, ask the child, "What are you? Hey, which site are you on? Tell me about some stories that you read today that you saw there." Just get some conversations going. TV violence still a thing. Um, there are studies that have shown that increase in TV violence led to increase in homicides. I don't know. I think now children are somewhat maybe immune to that. They see so much of it that maybe it's not reality for them anymore. It's just I'm not even sure what to say about that. So it's so important to have good discussions with the children and teach the parents how to do that. Um, video games, we don't go to arcades really anymore. You're at home, with your friends over playing Mario Kart, or games or using the internet. So just to be aware of different scams and predators out there with that. Bullying. Oh, bullying is such a thing. Cyberbullying, now bullying each other online, or social bullying like Facebook, going and posting things, um, posting pictures, things that aren't true. It's just so hurtful and generally comes from a place of inadequacy of the person who's the bully. Um, noticing if there's sleeping problems, bruises, poor concentration, missing things, kids not wanting to go to school. Those can all be signs and symptoms that they're being bullied. Hopefully they feel like there's somebody at school that they can go to. School violence. Whoever thought we would have to talk about that, but zero tolerance, no guns, no knives, no weapons coming in. Um, children will bring in toy guns and get sent home. I've seen that happen. Um, and then those emergent situations when you have a school shooting, and so they will run drills now. You have earthquake drills and hurricane drills and um, school shooting drills, and the kids can get scared. And so again, consistency, knowing what the emergency plan is and acting on it, and lots of practice are really good things. And then finally, health promotion, making sure that the routine immunizations are completed. During the school age child, we look for things like scoliosis. That's when that usually gets tested. We're still checking vision and hearing. We're checking blood levels, cholesterol levels. We're checking for diabetes, and heart and cholesterol problems. High blood pressure, hypertension, and cholesterol are now being seen in younger and younger age children, which is really sad. So going back to education and going back to helping the family talk to the children about growth and development is really, really important. I'm going to stop sharing there. And so I think that was shorter than the previous one. There's just so much information that I want to share with you, and hope that you are learning something and that you are able to teach other people, give other people your knowledge about these topics. So I will stop recording and I will be moving on to the adolescent. All right, enjoy the rest of your evening.